grateful for you all being here. The first question I want to ask you, friends, is I feel like there's an experience of living inside a musical, being on the inside of that machine, that in a way you all have an experience that nobody else has right now. What does it feel like to be inside this show? And I think, to me, one of the things that is so striking in terms of the genre of Tap Dance Kid, really, and how it sits in the history of musical theater, is that it is both connected to the history of vaudeville and dance musicals and tap dance musicals, and we see in this story a very, very intimate family drama, right? That really has so much that is emotionally grounded, really nuanced and textured. And I think, at least for me, as I've been sitting here with this show, I felt like, oh, musicals like Next to Normal and A Fun Home and later shows that had really complicated family dynamics, it's like this show has that as well as those huge tap numbers.
It kind of, every time we were in rehearsal, I was almost like in tears, because I tapped when I was very young. I started tapping when I was like 3 years old, and then I stopped when I was about 13, so it's been like 15 years since I put tap shoes on until I got to the show. But when I see him, doing his stuff, you know, and learning, and also my dad, when I first started tapping, was like, my son's not gonna dance, you know? He's not gonna dance, he's gonna play basketball, he's gonna be a lawyer, just like in the show, you know, something else. So I always got a little emotional about it, and just anybody that does something that they love, we have to encourage that, because I feel like anybody who's, you can call that, but anybody who's in a job or in a position that they don't know, that's how the world becomes unhappy, you know? We're just all feel like we're stuck in a prison that we've created for ourselves. But when you're doing something that you love to do, it's freeing. So being a part of this show has definitely re-inspired me to put the tap shoes back on, and also just creatively, I haven't done theater since I was 8 years old. I did Lion King for like 3 years, and so coming back and just, being around.
You've been doing television.
Doing television and film, and I do music, I put albums out and things like that, but just seeing all of these just amazingly talented artists, are just like, oh my goodness, you know, I'm just thankful that I can, be inspired.
Monumental show just because of the fact that there's so much movement alone, and there's so much singing, and there's so much, it's got everything going for it. Like, this is a triple threat of shows, so so that alone is insane. And then doing that in less than 2 weeks of rehearsal time is like, okay, I'm sorry, what now? Like, that, I thought I misunderstood. I was like, yeah, I understand Encores as a policy, but like, have you read the script? Someone's tapping in roller skates. I feel like we need a tech day just for that. And so that was an insanely truncated process, so that was crazy. And then, it's also, the original show was played much more as a comedy, so it was much more, like, every emotional moment of the show was undercut by like a laugh, because so right after William's song there was like 17 jokes, one after another. Anytime something happened with the family, when Emma was feeling really insecure, she'd crack a joke. And so in this version, our book was entirely rewritten, so it's played much more, so it does have a lot of comedic aspects, but it's played much more as a drama. So that was what we were feeling in the rehearsal room. But out here in front of you guys, it's been like, wait, is this still a comedy? Because it was so funny, because there was just some moments where it was like, that feels like it shouldn't. Some audiences, like, ooh, like they feel how intense that moment is. And some audiences think it's like the funniest thing in the world. So it's just so interesting to see, because the book remains the same every night, so it's really interesting to see the way you guys react differently. And so being inside the show, it's just we all have our perspectives on how it should feel. Like, certain lines always feel dramatic to me, but the audience kind of makes us question, wait, like going deeper, is this comedic, or vice versa? So that's been the most interesting part.
I don't know if I can really follow that with anything useful for y'all, but I think for me, I appreciate Kenny's approach in really trying to grasp as much of the drama as we could, and much of the real life moments that happen in families. And I think that's important to show, because we don't want to just portray a black family entertaining an audience, right? We want to show the real ins and outs of what happens and the real conversations that happen. And I hope that we were able to achieve that. I think that the changes they made think that the changes they made in the book really helped drive that forward, like Alex was saying. And has anyone read the novel, Nobody's Family's Gonna Change? Yes, I see a hand, I see a hand. What I love about the novel and what they did with the rewrites is that it's more centered on the drama of it. I read the novel to prepare for this, and I found it very difficult to get through because of what the children were going through. So that's all I have to say about that.
Like Trevor, I also was a Lion King cub. And so it feels absolutely amazing coming back to my theater roots. That's something that I have not experienced in a very, very long time. The long hours, the scheduling, tutoring. So it's been quite exhausting, but it's absolutely amazing. And I also worked with Kenny. Definitely. Oh, didn't. Oh, okay, sorry. I also worked with Kenny Leon, our director, during Hairspray Live, which I did in 2016. So it's also kind of like a full circle moment. But being a part of this just feels really amazing. And again, what Alex said, seeing everybody's interpretations of all of our different lines and, you know, the different meanings that everybody else has with, you know, the dialogue is really fascinating. And just to see even like all of the parts in the story that kind of come together when we're talking about not just Black struggle in itself, but also, I mean, William's urge to put his family into white assimilation, and when we talk about Emma and her struggle with intersectionality, I think it's something that audiences can really relate to. They can take it in and they can really move on and have a conversation with it, because I feel like it does sit with you when we get to the end of the show and we hear William's song and we kind of just sit back and we're like, whoa, what was that? And then you look back on the show and you're like, this has all kind of just been feeding into this, you know what I mean? And it's been such a long process of, you know, trying to get it right. I feel like there is no right way to get it. I feel like we've done our jobs. So yeah, it's amazing.
Physically demanding, and we need a stronger tapper. But I had already been so committed to the role that I knew this is where I wanted to be. So I actually worked with the great DeWitt Fleming Jr., who you saw as the grandfather in this. Wasn't he like insane? Like, he's amazing. And so I worked with him for a month in preparation for my final callback, because I knew, because like the boys right there, they can attest, in between shows at Caroline, I would be like going to Ripley's Rear, just rehearsing with DeWitt, just making sure my tapping was 100% so that I could get this role. And in the end, I got it, which was so great, because like it really showed that hard work did pay off. So that was kind of my physical preparation for this, because I've always had like good stamina, but tapping is a whole other thing, and it's so full body. Like people think of it as just the feet, but it's not. It's one of the most full body styles of dance you can do. Everything is controlled, and so like I had to work. So I worked with DeWitt for a month before my final callback, and after I found out I got the role, I still worked with him just to make sure I would be prepared and I would be able to perform 100%. So yeah.
Wow.